Hello, sweet friends, and welcome to the Rebookery channel. I am Gina, and today I am going to do a flip through of some journals that I've been working in, and then journals that I'm going to have for sale in my Etsy shop. I'm going to open it back up. It's been almost a year since I've had it open. I'm going to have them for sale on Saturday, June 11th, and I will open up the shop, let's go 8 a.m. Central Time. And I'm super excited because they're just a different kind of journal than what I've been doing. And so I'm excited to share what I've been doing with them, with you guys, and then hopefully get you inspired and you'll want to create some stuff, with lots of fabric and strings and threads and yarns and all that good stuff. Okay. So first of all, this is a fabric journal that I've been working in, and it's just some scraps of fabric, and I bound it together and I take it outside if the weather is nice, and I do my stitching in it. And I have to be completely honest with you guys. So my stitching is so basic. I mean, we're talking, yeah, like so basic. I don't know a lot of the stitches. I'm trying to teach myself some, but I don't know, and this kind of the way that I do journaling too, especially with my sewing, is I do it more for utilitarian purposes. Like I do it more for not decorative as much as I want it to stick. I want it to be adhered to whatever I'm sticking it to. So I do just a lot of just very rudimentary stitches, and I'm teaching myself, and I'm sure people probably would say I'm doing it the wrong way, and that's totally okay. I will totally agree with you. I do most of my stitches, I'm sure, the wrong way. Oh, let's see. I actually had that book open to the middle, which interesting. Okay, so now you can see that this journal, because they're fabric, you can either make this be the cover or this be the cover. So you can kind of see how I did that. They are totally floppy, and they're going to be totally squishy and able to go through your sewing machine, or if you're hand sewing, and I like to just kind of roll the fabric up in my hand and then do my stitching. And so that's what you're going to see with these journals. I do have a few that are going to have some paper in them, and I'll show you those when I get to them. But yeah, so this is my fabric journal that I'm working in right now. This is a piece that I'm working on, and it's going to go in that tab binding journal. So if you recall, last week I did a video and I showed you this. This is just a journal that I've kind of put together with just some assorted pieces that are both painted and on paper. This is some heavy watercolor paper. Or on fabric. And so it's just a collection. This is some wallpaper. This is just a collection of some of my pieces. And I'm doing this very different than what I've normally done because I'm doing this tab binding. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. And so here's a piece, and I don't know if I'll put it here. I don't know. This is just a piece I'm kind of working on with some scraps left over from the journals and stuff that I've made, and these cool panels that I got. Actually, I have a couple of journals that are going to be made out of these panels. So let me show you the journals that I'm going to have in my shop. All right, so let's start off with journals that you're familiar with. These are going to be journals that are going to be a hybrid, if you will, of paper and fabric. And I did go heavy on the fabric, but there's also paper in there. So people who are not quite ready to make the jump to a complete fabric journal, this might be one that you would like. So these are bound with just a single signature. They are, this is wallpaper remnants. So these are going to be very raw and unfinished because one, that's kind of my style. And two, I'm not giving you a decorated journal as in it's a piece of art. If you were to purchase one, I'm giving you one that just has a little bit of inspiration, just enough for you to get excited and make this your own piece of art. So here's this one right here, and I'll show you, let me show you the covers, and then I'll go through it and I'll show you what they look like on the inside. So this is really cool right here. There's another one. There we go. So this is I think it was from 1967. This is one of those plastic soft books that babies will have. And I found this at a thrift shop and I cut it apart and I used these. I've had it for a while and I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So I cut it apart and they use these little panels as the cover. So this is a vintage sheet. And then this is like some seagrass wallpaper. So it's kind of sturdy. So there's this one right here. There's this one right here. Then I have two that are kind of like, they were Stitch inspired. So this one again, made from the seagrass wallpaper. This is a fabric sample. And then I just took some packaging from some vintage notions, some snaps, and some, I think this might have been a zipper. And then just stitched some scraps on here. Okay, so there's that. And then this one, I love this color combination because green and red can be very off-putting, but I don't know, it seemed to work. So this is the front cover, which is, you know, again with this seagrass wallpaper. But then I put a picture from one of my vintage sewing books or needlework books, and I just love this smocking and the tassels and everything. So I just stitched that on here with some trim. And then, you know, just added, this is a little bit of polyester. And then these last two, so this was, my gosh, I probably got this 14, 15 years ago. It was in an antique store. It was a box of paper flowers. And I don't know, the box was beautiful. The flowers were okay. And I think I've actually used them in journaling and stuff. Gosh, I don't even know where they are now, but the box was the best. And it's just been sitting around and sitting around and sitting around, and I've always thought it was too precious, and now I'm like, nope, we're going to use it. So I tore the box cover off and tore it up and then put it on as the cover. So again, the seagrass, this box cover from these paper flowers, and then some trim. And then the same over here. This is just a different color combination. So yeah, that's what the outsides look like. So now let me show you what the insides look like. Because like I said, these are going to be hybrid. So I'm going to make sure I'm in focus here. So very raw. You're going to see the stitches. You're going to have space to paint or collage, whatever it is that you like to do in your journals. And I started off with a piece of some needlework. I had this giant piece of needlework cloth, and it had the painting on it, and it was like a scenery, a landscape scenery. And I cut it down, and then I put a piece of it in each one of these books. So that will be the first page, and you'll get one, whatever, you know, I don't know. Some of them are more colorful than others. And then I had these cool fabric sample cards. And since this was like a hybrid of fabric and paper, I thought it would be cool to add those. I've been holding on to those for a while, and I just didn't know what to do with them. So there will be two attached with a safety pin, then some scrapbook paper, some more needlework cloth, again another piece, and this is more of a raw piece, and it has just a little bit of blue ink for whatever the image was. I think it might have been like an antique car or something. So I cut that down. Some wallpaper, scrapbook paper, again another piece of that needlework cloth, scrapbook paper, wallpaper, and then this was a cool tablecloth, and so it kind of has this really, it's fabric, but it kind of has this really nice almost smooth feel to it. A piece of felt, and this is wool felt, and I just love it, love it, love it. And then again, wanted to mix fabric and paper, so these are some Pantone color samples, and but it's cloth, so it's cloth on paper. And so I have a whole collection of these, and so there's one here, a button card, and then the very last page has 2 other of these Pantone cards, and they're different colors, and sometimes the fabric is attached, and then sometimes the fabric is actually loose like this. Sometimes it's a pocket, sometimes it's cut off. It's just, it must have come from like a decorator and probably used this as their samples, so they may have cut part of it off, or they, you know, to give to their clients or whatever. So anyway, so yeah, there's 3 of those in here. Okay, so then this is the other side of the book. Again, I didn't do a lot of embellishing because I would like for this to be your piece of art, your finished work. So there you go. Now they're all going to be the same. The only differences will be like what color cards you'll get, but basically it's all the same. And the scrapbook papers may be a little bit different, but everything is set up the same. Oh, and there's the lawnmower right on cue. So if you've watched my videos before, you know that, oh, and I love to always put the branding from the fabric. Anytime there's fabric branding, I always like to keep that on there. I think that's kind of cool to see where it came from. If you've watched my videos before, you know that every single time I try to make a video, my husband decides he's going to mow. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's I decide I'm going to make a video because he's gone outside to mow. So, yeah. Hopefully it won't be too loud. And so these are all very similar. Like I said, just a couple little changes. Maybe the scrapbook paper is a little different, or the Pantone cards or the fabric sample cards are just a little different. I will say on this one, I did do something different on the piece of needlework. Because of the colors of the cover, the harsh, bright colors just didn't go well with this. So I did put just a wash of some pink paint on this cloth. You can kind of still see the shadowing from the original paint, but I just felt like it needed to be toned down a bit. So that's really the only difference on this one. And then I love this one. I don't know. I just love this one. I think that pony is super cute. And then here's your buttons and your Pantones and more Pantone. There you go. So those are my 6, we're going to call these hybrid paper and fabric journals. Okay, so then I'm going to have 3 of these little, these are a little experiment. I love these. First of all, they're a lot smaller. I think 6 by 6 maybe is the cover, but maybe not even that. May just be like a 5.5 by 5.5. All right, so check this out. This is going to be all fabric, okay, except for the covers. I put like a plain card. So this is the back for this one. This is the back for that one. And this is the back for this one. The covers are made from some upholstery fabrics. So like I got a book of samples of upholstery fabric. And so the covers are made from upholstery fabric. And then because these are books for stitching, I set them up so that when you get done stitching, if you didn't want the backs to show, you could glue them together or you could stitch them together. So that's why you're going to see the backs. Personally, for me, I love the backs. I love to see the work that went in to my stitching, because my stitching is so crazy. A lot of times the back is actually a really nice stitch, maybe even nicer than the front. So, but it's totally your preference. If I didn't want this to show, I could just easily glue this together with some fabric glue, or I could stitch it together. So I set up these fabric journals so they kind of follow that same premise. Now these are wallpaper, or I'm sorry, fabric samples, so they got a little bit of paper backing. This one did not have paper backing. You can stitch through this. I just always like to poke my holes with a push pin, just because it's not so hard on my fingers. And so what I did for these books is I created some stamping, or I created some places for you to stitch by using some of my most favorite treasured stamps. So let me walk you through. There are three different themes. Actually, there's two of these mushroom gnome themes, and then this one's going to be more of a weather rainbows. Okay, so here we go. So little pocket here. So this is just some cotton fabric that I stitched onto felt, because it's so lovely to hand stitch through felt. I just love it. It's like butter. I just love it. And then these are some of my stamps that a good friend of mine made, and then I just stamped those on here with some archival ink. And then you could do a couple of different things. You could paint these. You could stitch them just like you would if you were going to buy like a stitching kit or an embroidery kit. You just follow the pattern. Or you could just decorate all around it. You could collage. And then here's the back side of a piece of paper. Here's two more pieces of the mushrooms. And then, or paper, I didn't mean paper, I meant fabric. And then here's felt. And then here is just some remnants of some needlework cloth that was left over, and I just stitched it together. I love how that looks, and it would just be so fun to practice your stitches on this. Okay, and you can see how these backs could go together if you didn't want them to show once you finished. And then in the back, there's a little pocket. And then here's this. And then here's that. And I didn't show you. There's just a little tag in this pocket right here. And so you could stitch around this. You could stitch around this. You could put these together. So that one is gnomes. Kind of put gnomes and elves on the cover. And then it's mushrooms. That one's like the purple one. Here is this one. This is a blue one. Okay, so it's the same premise. I love this fabric. I've been holding on to this forever and ever and ever, just waiting for the perfect project. And then, just like the other one, you'll have a tag in the front, and then you'll have a button card in the back. Oh, here comes the lawnmower again. And then this one, a little bit different. So this one has my friend also made me this stamp. So it's a one-of-a-kind type of stamp here, and it's rainbow. And the other one is going to be clouds and a sun. So those are going to be the stamps as you go throughout. And I just thought it would be so fun to paint this or stitch this. I really want to stitch it. I just feel like that would be something that I could do. So I'll walk you through again. I love this fabric. I've held on to this forever and ever and ever. Messy stitches, lots of raw edges. This is a little bit different of a piece of cloth. This is very, not stiff, but it's got a lot of heft to it. So when you try to stitch through it, it's not going to be like stitching through water. It's going to give you a little pushback, which is, I like that since I'm fairly new to stitching. And then just a little tag in the back. And then here's your covers. Okay, so there's those journals. The next two I have are going to be total, all the rest of these are going to be total fabric. And so these guys, I played off of the Peter Rabbit theme, and I used some quilt block. They were painted. I think I sold them in a kit a long time ago, but I played off of this theme. So here's the back. Okay. And then these guys, they're going to be the exact same. So I'll just walk you through them really quickly. And again, I did that whole front back thing. So you could do it if you wanted. You don't have to. So this is a piece of stamped embroidery. It's kind of faint. This is an old curtain. This is felt, flannel, vintage sheet. This was a table runner. This is a piece of some stitching. I think it was a curtain, and I just pinned this little remnant of like a vintage sheet because I thought it would just be fun to have in here. You could totally take that off and use it however you want. And then here is some stitching that was already on this, I guess it was a curtain. I think it was like a valance. I love this fabric. It's like an upholstery fabric or a drapery fabric. Love, love, love it. Okay, so stitching again. This time I put another panel of the fabric panel for Peter Rabbit, and you can, like, again, take it out of the pins, cut it up, paint it, do whatever you wanted with it, whatever inspires you. It's so awesome to see how people interpret journals and journaling and what they like to do. And I think this is going to be exactly the same. Just, yeah. And how they interpret, like, you know, some people paint, some people like to collage, some people like to scrapbook. And it's just so fun to see how everybody's interpretation. And these, again, guys, you can totally like roll these up, wad these up, stick them through a machine, hold them in your hand as you're stitching. But it's so cool to see how people interpret the journals and their process and how they would like to, you know, get their creativity going. So these guys, this has got on the front, these are two, they're vintage, could be needlework. They're not, this is not stitched, it's painted. And then I just like stitched them onto this kind of heavy fabric here. So this one has this little horse, this one has a train, and I'll walk you through what these look like. Again, all fabric. So we got some felt, and then I just pinned in some scrap fabrics, some flannel, a piece that was cut from some needlework cloth, vintage sheet, an abandoned, looked like painting on fabric, needlework, a giant piece, and I cut it down. I pinned in a quilt block with some scraps on the back. Love this vintage sheet. How many of you guys had the striped vintage sheets growing up? And then a button card and a snap card. And then there's the back, so that one's the horse. And then the train will be the same, is literally the exact same. Sorry, they're all folding on me here. It's going to be the exact same. You just get a different piece of like the cloth, a quilt block, the scraps. This is another remnant from that abandoned paint project, painting on fabric. A button card, snap, and there's the back. And I love the colors on those, that peach. Okay, last, oh, nope, not last. Here, we'll do these. Okay, these guys. So these are, I'll hold this up. These are fabric panels where you can paint on these. It's like a paint by number. So you can paint or you can stitch. And these guys are exactly the same. It's just got a different flower on the front. So on the binding for these guys, I did them a little different. Sorry, the button cards are trying to get away here. Did these a little different. I offset the binding so that instead of the binding being right at the very spine, it's actually going to be a little bit more towards the bottom. And the reason why I did this was because it just makes it, because you're working with fabric and there's a lot of bulky fabric in this, it makes it a little bit easier to lie flat. So here's the front. Okay, I put a quilt piece in here with some scrap and another piece of scrap fabric. This is like some, I just picked this up. It's a really soft fabric. I want to say it's like for not batting but wadding that you would put into a quilt or into if you're making a blanket. And then this is some raw fabric right here, a cotton fabric. This just reminds me of a farmhouse. This is a tablecloth, and I just clipped in some cards. That pretty pink piece of felt, because it's so fun to stitch through felt. And then this is a quilt block. I love using quilt blocks like this because you get a variety of these, you know, different fabrics, and it's so fun to pull these apart and then use these as scraps. So some more scraps on the back, a button card, some more scraps on the tablecloth. Let's see, a little bit of lace, and then the back of the journal. I'm just, I love that. It's just so fun to hold that in your hands. This one is going to be the exact same, guys. It's just going to have a little bit different color of buttons, but all the scraps are the same. The cards are the same. The fabric is the same. Here's your quilt block. And it has, this one has a little yellow, good grief. I need to go put that button card back in there again. This one has a little yellow satin on the front, and this one over here has the yellow satin on the back. So there's two of those. Okay, now the last one. So the last one I made just like the one that I'm working in with a little bit of differences. So this is a baby blanket that just has the most delicious fabric. Here's some scraps. Here's some of this pink. More scraps. I love this. Those colors are just amazing. Some flannel. There's that striped vintage sheet again. Oh, and the flower vintage sheet. And this, I'm going to call it farmhouse fabric. And that pretty, and this was actually a vintage sheet. And then here's a piece of a quilt. I love that, and it's so soft. And guys, I love whenever I buy textiles and such, the first thing I do is I wash them several times sometimes. And I just, I love the smell. Like I just sit here and smell them. Just clipped some cards to this, a little sewing card to this. And a button card, a little flash card. And yeah, there you go, all fabric. All right, so there you go, my friends. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all fabric journals. 3 of these fabric stamped journals. And 6 of the hybrid journals. Holy smokes. It's been a long time since I've put journals in the shop. Yeah, can you tell? All right, my friends, so there you go. These will be in the shop, like I said, Saturday, June 11th, and I'll open up my shop at 8. And then my plan is to get these packaged up and shipped out Monday morning so that you can get them as quickly as possible. All right, my friends, sorry for the long video. I hope you got some inspiration. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're happy. And I hope you do something creative today. Bye.